worst attack on our democracy since the Civil War.
Stomach-turning assault on the U.S. Capitol and on our Congress.
A mob supporting and encouraged by President Trump stormed the U.S. Capitol.
Like everyone else, I watched the January 6th coup attempt unfold on live TV. It was shocking to watch, but it wasn't a total surprise. I mean, things in the country have been building towards something like that for a while. I especially remember the moment I saw a Confederate flag waving over the mob, and it was like, of course, that train's never late. And I remember seeing newscasters and commentators reacting to the sight of it with shock, like, oh my goodness, the flag of the Confederacy has breached the Capitol. That didn't even happen during the Civil War. But the thing is, I mean, the way it played out from beginning to end, and even to today, reflects how the U.S. itself exists as a contradiction, an unresolved conflict between two opposing ideologies. The belief in equality for all versus the belief that the so-called white race should colonize and dominate the world. People express shock that a man would carry the flag through the rotunda, but there are Confederate statues all through the Capitol building. These are formal installations given a place of honor by the government. Even Jefferson Davis, the president of the Confederacy, has had a statue there since the 1930s. Meanwhile, there's only 2 statues of Black Americans at the Capitol, and both went up just in the past 10 years. But it's bigger than statues and flags, of course, right? I mean, these are just the symbols, but they reveal the true nature of democracy in the U.S. It doesn't exist here. It never has. Because structural racism has to die first before true self-governance can be born. It's been interesting to hear so many people speak about saving democracy while treating racism as a side issue in this matter. It's the opposite of a side issue. Yes, it's true. January 6th represents the most significant event since the Civil War. But we miss the forest for the trees if we don't recognize how it's a direct continuation of that war over Black enslavement, whiteness, and this question of who is allowed to participate in the Republic. We also endanger our future if we don't properly understand the past, if we don't study the history of resistance and social justice movements. Truth is, the struggle for human rights and self-governance has always been led by the very people excluded from it by the U.S. government. The Black, the brown, the indigenous, the immigrant, the poor. Not because the U.S. is some unique bastion of democracy, but because of our own determination to be free. Democracy doesn't exist here, yet. But it can exist here if our generation takes up the banner for universal human rights that's been carried by generations before. This question of democracy, it's bigger than the U.S. It's bigger than any nation state. If we believe that freedom is the natural state of humanity, that self-determination is our God-given right, that cause only succeeds through us embracing what unites us across all our different identities, our humanity. Democracy isn't static, something that exists simply because we wrote it down on parchment paper a long time ago. Democracy is dynamic, powered by the people. We can't just go through the motions, wearing flag pins or posting black squares on social media or settling for pomp and ceremony. Just because we have an election and an inauguration doesn't mean we have a functioning democracy or even a peaceful transfer of power, especially if our government refuses to pass a new Voting Rights Act. The revolution in America isn't over, and it isn't being fought by the people storming the Capitol with "Don't Tread on Me" flags. It's the ones demanding freedom and equality for everyone. It's the workers striking for livable wages and safe conditions. It's the people defending our right to bodily autonomy and health care. It's the tenants protesting for housing justice. It's the modern day abolitionists who, just like in the 19th century, won't stop fighting for what's right just because some politicians say it's inconvenient. It's all the people who recognize what is at stake in these times and who know that we only have the freedoms we have now because of people recognizing what was at stake in the past. It's everyone across every field, in every neighborhood, from every walk of life, looking around and asking, what can I do? So, What will you do?